We, of course, begin with our big story here in the race for the White House. We're just 1 week away now from the first in the nation primary. The New Hampshire primary is expected to focus on the independent voter, something that could curb former President Trump's momentum, although he made history in Iowa last night. Let's bring in our ABC News political director, Rick Klein, for more on this. So, Rick, thank you for being back with us. And look, as you reported here just moments ago on our show, the New Hampshire debate on ABC will not move forward. And as we know, this was contingent on the candidates and the outcome of the race. So how did this all play out?
Yeah, to have a debate, you need more than one candidate. And there were 4 candidates who actually qualified. 2 initially said yes. It was Ron DeSantis and Chris Christie. Chris Christie, of course, left the race last week. That left Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. Donald Trump has not participated in any of the debates. Nikki Haley, we were expecting to make a decision after the results in Iowa came down. And this morning, she said publicly that she would only debate if Donald Trump was there. So it was a debate over debates. Of course, she knew that Donald Trump had not attended any of the previous primary debates. She had just been at a debate only with Ron DeSantis a week ago in Iowa, but she made that demand. We talked to the Haley campaign and the Trump campaign today. We gave them a deadline of 5 o'clock Eastern to tell us if they would participate. Neither would make that commitment, and therefore left with only Ron DeSantis willing to participate. ABC News and WMUR in New Hampshire decided not to move forward, and we presume that the other debate that had been scheduled in New Hampshire on CNN won't happen either, and it means that there's not likely to be a face-to-face debate between any of the candidates in the week before the New Hampshire primary, breaking with a long and storied tradition of debates in that first-in-the-nation state.
All right, so now the nation will not be able to see these candidates go head-to-head. Again, it takes 2 people to have a debate. So this is all still moving forward, though. I mean, New Hampshire is still happening here, Rick. So let's talk about some of these polls that indicate New Hampshire voters. They're not really looking at the general election right now. They're saying that they don't really care about the candidate that matches up the best against Biden. What they care about is values. These candidates now have a week to express those values to voters. So, Rick, what is their best plan of attack here without taking part in a scheduled network debate?
And remember, New Hampshire voters are different than Iowa voters. It is just a different place, and they're different kinds of human beings. They're a lot more moderates, a lot more independents. Democrats can't participate technically, but a lot of people that vote Democratic are independents, and they get to be part of this. And their values are different. And New Hampshire has been a battleground state in recent years. It's different than the more far-right conservative Republican electorate that votes in the caucuses. Nikki Haley would appear to have an edge, according to the polling, over Ron DeSantis. Donald Trump, very popular there as well. He won the state by 20 points, whereas he lost Iowa back in 2016. Of course, he romped by 30 points in Iowa just yesterday. New Hampshire, though, is tighter. And Haley, particularly with the exit of Chris Christie, would appear to be in a position to at least challenge somewhat Donald Trump and make it less of a blowout. And boy, does she need it, as would DeSantis at this stage. They need to show that they can win somewhere if they're going to be able to show that they can be standing against Donald Trump. And as you can see, yesterday just was not a strong example of that, particularly a bitter disappointment for Ron DeSantis, who came in that distant second.
Yeah, I mean, or you could argue, right, Rick, that it's a bitter disappointment for Nikki Haley's camp for her to come in third there. So let's talk a little bit about Haley and her momentum that she, I think, had. We were talking about it a lot going into New Hampshire, and she's the one, Rick, right, that said there's only 2 tickets out of Iowa, but then she came in third. As we go to New Hampshire, though, she has the endorsement of the governor there, Chris Sununu, who also, right, Rick, predicted a shocking second-place win for her in Iowa. So how do you think her camp is strategizing right now?
Yeah, it is about the expectations game, and Sununu has also predicted that Nikki Haley's going to win the state of New Hampshire. And at this stage, that may be what she needs to show that she can be part of this conversation, in part because just a month after New Hampshire comes another big state. It's South Carolina. Her home state, you'd think she'd have a natural advantage, having been elected there twice over by decent margins. But Donald Trump is actually very popular there. And the polls would suggest that President Trump is the front runner there. Ron DeSantis spent some time today there to try to send a message that he can compete there as well. So it puts a lot of pressure on her, because right after South Carolina comes Super Tuesday, and then you're off and running. And if you don't have national momentum and infrastructure at that stage, you may as well not even try. Donald Trump right now would seem poised to romp through those Super Tuesday states and be well on his way to the nomination by March. And that's, again, why New Hampshire is going to matter a week from tonight.
It does appear that way. And Rick, let's talk about that really quickly. What you said about Rick DeSantis there. We knew that Ron DeSantis was going to skip New Hampshire, at least for today, right? His plan all along was to go straight from Iowa to South Carolina. pass over New Hampshire in the middle. But now that he came in second, I mean, what kind of focus does his team have to have in New Hampshire?
Yeah, and he's going to be back in New Hampshire even tonight. So he's not abandoning the state entirely, but he is splitting some time over the next week. I think it puts more pressure on him to overperform because you mentioned coming in second. That's sort of the worst he could do or afford to do in Iowa, given the expectations there. The thing is, it's not just about the numbers. It's about where you match up against expectations. And you can win by coming in second or third if you're seen as the comeback kid, if it seems like things are overperforming, and you got to show to your donors and to voters that you have something that has the moves that can take on the others in the party. So DeSantis, I think, has a little more pressure than he did just a day or two ago. Yes, he did what he needed to do in Iowa, but he didn't do much more than that. And at some point, if you're going to actually win a primary, you got to start winning states.
Oh, man, this is so interesting. Rick, don't go anywhere, right? We're going to bring you into our panel. So let's bring everybody into our big story panel here. So joining us today, along with Rick, is our ABC News contributor and SiriusXM radio host Mike Muse, contributor and former congresswoman from Virginia, Barbara Comstock, and Democratic strategist Alincia Johnson is along here with Rick. So thank you, everybody. What an interesting day. Barbara, let's start here with you. The latest polls show that Nikki Haley would have a better performance in Iowa. So how does her team now take this disappointment into New Hampshire, in your opinion, where she is at least set up for more success, especially with the endorsement there, as we talked about, from the governor, but a majority of the electorate there is undeclared? I mean, is she going to get those votes?
Well, she's had a bigger rise than anybody, during this whole process. And when you look at New Hampshire is a state that Donald Trump did not win in the general elections in either election. And when you post up against Joe Biden, Nikki Haley does the best. So that's what she has pointed out. She has the best going for her. She has the support of Chris Sununu, who, of course, won by double digits in 2022, while the MAGA-supported candidates went down in flames at the Senate level and at the congressional level. So what the MAGA people don't get is their candidates keep losing, including Donald Trump, while people like Chris Sununu win. So that's what Nikki Haley can argue.
She can, although we are seeing obviously historic win from Trump in Iowa. And Alincia, as we turn this to you, we read some polls here to Barbara's point that said that voters in New Hampshire don't really care right now who's going to match up the best against Biden. Instead, they are more values focused. And now they have to choose a candidate without getting to witness another debate.
Look, I think it is a disservice that the New Hampshire voters do not get to hear directly from the candidates on the ballot ahead of this important election. To what Rick was saying, New Hampshire voters are completely different than Iowa voters. Look, Donald Trump lost Iowa in the 2016 primary. And if we think about the New Hampshire voters, who include, as you all talked about, independents who are typically Democrats or vote for Democrats, Nikki Haley has an interesting tightrope to walk. She wants to appeal to the MAGA Republicans. That is the majority of the Republican Party base right now in the general election. But she also wants to appease to those independents and those moderates who are considering a Joe Biden. And so it will be interesting to see how she gets directly in front of voters come before Tuesday, since she won't be on the debate stage.
And Rick, do you think that sometimes analysts and pollsters might be ignoring a little bit the MAGA wave that is happening and the support that we're seeing from Donald Trump? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you mentioned that one of the counties or something that he lost by like one vote.
Yeah, Donald Trump won 98 out of the 99 counties, and yeah, the one that he lost by a single solitary vote. So look, you can't look at a map like that and not recognize the power, the strength that Donald Trump has, and you can explain it a lot of different ways. And you can also point out that that his voters are downright mistaken and believe a lie when he said, when 2/3 of the Republicans who voted yesterday say falsely that Donald Trump or that Joe Biden was not legitimately elected. So bottom line is, it is what it is, and Republican voters have shown time and again, whatever else is said about them or about Donald Trump, they like Donald Trump and they like him a lot. Iowa was the kind of results that you can't get by a fluke. A same state that he lost 8 years ago, he won, and he won it huge. No one had ever won the Iowa caucuses in a competitive Republican race by more than 13 points. He won by 30.
And Mike, to you, he won. I mean, before even all the votes had been cast. That call was made so early, and some voters felt a little discouraged by that.
Yeah, absolutely. Although the rules by which the caucuses work is that once the doors close at 7 p.m., then technically polling has closed, right? And that's traditionally when you count all the votes is actually when the poll closes. It's just that the Iowa caucuses do it upon the door closing. The networks waited about 25 to 30 minutes, allowing practically any stragglers possibly to still be able to come in to cast their votes. But I think that goes to a larger issue that a lot of individuals have with does the media have too much of a heavy hand when it comes to determining outcomes of elections or giving certain candidates weight? And so I think that is something that they need to discuss amongst themselves for the next presidential cycle when it comes to declaring the caucus so early to allow voters the opportunity to express their voice through their vote.
And our thanks to you, Mike Muse, Barbara Comstock, Alincia Johnson, and Rick Klein.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.